A very good evening, dear student. Some days earlier, I have discussed a literary term, epicixes. Today, I am discussing another literary term, eco-criticism. I hope most of the student doing PG must be aware of it. All the research scholar must be knowing about it. So, eco-criticism is a new term in the field of English literature, which is believed to be the study of literature and environment from an interdisciplinary point of view, where all sciences synthesize themselves to analyze the environment and brainstorm possible solution of the contemporary environment situation. There are lots of environment problem, so it is the responsibility of we human to find out the solution. Actually, it is we who are creating disturbance in the environment. Because of us, lots of problem is arising. So it is our duty to find solution. So when we find solution through in a literary way, that is called as eco-criticism. It is believed to be an intentionally comprehensive approach, which is also famous by other names like green cultural studies, eco-poetics, and environmental literary criticism. Hence, it means that eco-critics try to investigate such thing which has the underlying ecological values and concern. They are more concerned in finding the meaning of the word nature in a precise way, and whether the examination of place should be in a distinctive category, much like class, gender, or race. They try to examine human perception of wilderness in a more accurate way. Their chief concern is that how it has changed throughout the history. They believe in the depiction of environmental issue of the contemporary scenario in popular culture and in modern literature. So for this purpose, they are very much concerned. They have been very much concerned, and they consider other disciplines also, such as history, philosophy, ethics, and psychology, to be possible contribution to eco-criticism. So it is a interdisciplinary or multidisciplinary approach, not just limited to literature only. Credit goes to William Ruekert, who was the first person to coin the term eco-criticism and use it in an essay entitled Literature and Ecology, an experiment in eco-criticism, which he published in 1978. He intended to stress on the application of ecology and ecological concept to the study of literature. Since then, there has been lots of work published by the people relating to eco theory and criticism, and it is still progressing. So, lots of work is being done in this field, and more finding and research is going on, and more philosophies are being added towards it, more thinking and so it is so because of the rise of environmentalism in the late 1960s and 70s, which has been like an explosion, and lots of literary writers contributed their writing focusing on the issue related to environment. See, since 1960s, all over the world, including India, there has been rise in the consciousness of people about the conservation of nature, and literary people or writers are not excluded from it. They also are contributing by writing various pieces related with the environment in their novels, dramas, and in the prose work. So, but as such, there have been no organized movement to study the ecological environmental side of literature. So these work related to the awareness of environment were scattered and categorized under a litany of different subject headings such as pastoralism. Now pastoral is also a word related with nature, means it is basically rural surrounding, human ecology, regionalism, American studies, etc. But there was no specific term related with the study of environment in literature, which developed later. The famous British Marxist critic Raymond William contributed a lot in this field and wrote a seminal critique of pastoral literature in 1970s, which is known as The Country and the City. It is considered as a genius work reflecting the 2 decades of leftist suspicion of the ideological evasion of the genre and its habit of making the work of rural labor disappear. Although William himself observed that the losses lamented in the pastoral might be genuine one and went on to profess a decidedly green socialism. Joseph Meeker, another writer, who is considered as also one of the precursor of ecological writing. He wrote an eco-critical text, The Comedy of Survival, in 1974, which is also an early test in the field. In the book, he proposed a version of an argument that was later to dominate eco-criticism and environmental philosophy. He gave the argument that environmental crisis is caused primarily by a cultural tradition in the West of separation of culture from nature and elevation of the former to the moral predominance. So he put the blame entirely on Western world. Meeker had tried to depict that a comic mode of muddling through and making love not war has superior ecological value. In the later second wave of eco-criticism, he has adopted an eco-philosophical position with apparently scientific sanction. It was used by him as a measure of literary value, which has tended to prevail over Raymond Williams' ideological and historical critique of the shift in a literary genre representation of nature. As Cheryl Glotfelty noted in his work, The Eco-Criticism Reader, I quote, one indication of the disunity of the early effort is that these critics rarely cited one another work. They didn't know that it existed. Each was a single voice howling in the wilderness. Unquote. So, eco-criticism is not like feminist and Marxist criticism because it has failed to crystallize into a successful movement. Other movements like feminism and Marxism has been very successful, but eco-criticism is not a very successful movement, though writers are trying their hard. Uh, in means in later 1970s, but it became a coherent movement in the USA in the 1990s. After that, in other part of the world and especially in India too. In India also there are many examples of novels and other literary texts which are basically based on eco-criticism. Hungry Tide by Amitav Ghosh is one such example. In mid 1980 there was a transition and the scholar began to work collectively to establish eco-criticism as an genre, taking the help of Western Literary Association. It was done with the main motive to reevaluate the writing based on nature to function as a non-fictional literary genre with the collective help of many people. This attempt was successful and Glotfelty became the first person to hold an academic position as a professor of literature and environment. So the organization UNR has retained the position it established at that time as the intellectual home of criticism. Even the other organization like ASLE has burgeoned into an organization with many members in United States and other countries of the world. Since the new branches of ASLE and affiliated organization were started in many countries of Europe and Asia, like in countries UK, Japan, Korea, Australia, New Zealand. The organization was known as in these countries as ASLEC-ANZ. In India, it was known as OSLE. In other countries also like Taiwan, Canada, and Europe, it was OSLE. Glotfelty defined eco-criticism as, I quote, eco-criticism is the study of relationship between literature and the physical environment, and one of the implicit goal of the approach is to recover professional dignity for what Glotfelty called the undervalued genre of nature writing, unquote. Lawrence Bell also defined eco-criticism as, I quote, a study of relationship between literature and environment conducted in the spirit of commitment to environmentalist praxis. So, since then, there have been many writers in India and around the world who have contributed in this field. So, thank you. I hope this topic is clear to you all.